Yeah.
Oh, you have one today?
Yep, and then you say allow. Just hit no. Just hit cancel. And then here. So up there, just hit pause. Okay,
Good, okay. Good evening, I am Candace Conway and I am going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's start with introductions and roll call. Would you like to lead?
Sure. Jacob Gray. Do we have districts?
You do,
District 3,
yes,
Board of Adjustment.
perfect. Candace Conway, District 2.
Mike Twomley, District 1.
Sean Gardner, Community Development Director. Nelson Tanner, Planning.
meeting planner.
Edward Hill, Bill County Code Environment.
Very good. Okay, we'll move on to public comments because there's not any public here. That's gonna wrap that up pretty quick.
Is there
Um,
anyone online or no?
Nope.
No one's online. Okay. And let's see, is there any changes to the agenda? No changes, okay. And regarding the minute meetings of the last meeting, January 22nd, 2026.
Yeah.
Yep.
And posted, they were very long and in detail.
Hmm.
Don't know if you read them.
I did read them.
They were the only request that I have, I think, on there. My name was Candace Blair. And
It still is.
Conway, and it still is on the agenda.
I don't think, did I do this one?
You did, but you're in a rush, you go on vacation.
Okay, all right.
So we can just make that note, that would be
Yes.
great.
So I will update all locations of your name.
All locations, thank you.
Some of them say Conway, but yeah, maybe it's flipped between the two.
And I guess, since Jacob wasn't here, do you want to make a motion to?
Oh, yeah, I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
And
Except for Candace's.
accept,
Yeah.
yeah, with reflection of that.
Any typos?
Was there not?
It was rather detailed,
Yeah.
and I guess I will second that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the election of officers. I know that you had some comments to make. Would you like to take some time?
Yeah, I think, now you gonna have something to say before, or is that gonna be after?
I had
It's up-
reserved it for like the department,
Okay.
report time to debrief on the last hearing and to just go over some thoughts and lessons learned and, maybe some improvements that we can
Yeah.
make.
Maybe I had to just wait for him.
Unless they're
Yeah.
applicable to your elections or
Yeah,
something.
'cause I think if we're gonna sit
Yeah.
on it for another year here, but
Yeah.
we're gonna hit some highlights, and maybe you're gonna cover some of that, so I would be fine to.
Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and get a nomination for chair.
I always love that aspect you get on a new board. It's like, I get a vote. I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm new here.
I don't know, can you elect yourself? I guess I would step in for chair,
Okay,
and
yeah,
can I make a motion for both chair and vice chair?
I think so.
I would make a motion that this Twomley guy perhaps could be chair again, and Jacob could be vice chair. If you'd be willing to.
Okay, so in case you didn't hear that, there's been a motion for Mike to become chair and Jacob for vice chair.
Do you have any do you have want to speak to your motion? Considering
No.
I'm
Oh.
pretty new here.
Right. And that would give you, well, instead of being thrown right into chair,
Mhm.
if you're gonna run the meeting, I don't know what you've run for meetings in planning, but I'm assuming that planning is pretty big and not everybody's gonna get to be chair if
Mhm.
if they did one 4-year term. I did 12 consecutive years and was chair way too many times.
And here you are again, wanting to be
Yeah.
chair.
But, I think one person should never be constantly in that position.
Great.
What's been the history of the Board of Adjustments chairmanship?
So. Who, I can't
The
remember.
first one was our county commissioner. who,
Oh, yeah,
I
wasn't here then.
I wasn't here then.
George.
that was, from Paonia.
Yeah.
He had a
And-
lot to do with
Just
the
recently.
land use code. He was in office.
Oh, Who?
Mark
Over.
Rover, yeah.
Yeah,
So
He sat on the first Board of Adjustment,
Right.
he was the first chair, that makes sense.
And then it was, Hilling.
yeah, he was the other, the
Yeah.
retired state policeman, yep.
Yeah.
So we three were the first go around,
Mhm.
and then Schilling. I don't know if he finished his term,
I
but it was a
I
real,
think he stepped down cause
Like a
it
year
was right
before.
before I came, to the planning department. And then for a while, Mike was the only member on the board.
Nice.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
did not know that.
I guess.
yeah.
Wow.
I don't know
Um,
that we had meetings though. I don't
They
remember.
probably could.
No.
They were the target.
Yeah.
Like
So then after we got,
Ron Hayes,
Ron was the chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he
Was Cameron? Or-
Yes.
I was-
everybody that served, I think, has been chair, except for Schilling. Is that his last name?
You were chair before Ron, is that correct?
Well, we technically didn't have a quorum.
Okay, I couldn't recall.
We
Yeah,
went through a long period of time.
We
We
did.
didn't have a meeting.
yeah, it was
So-
very long.
I might have been chair when
Nice.
everything was on hold
Gotcha.
or whatever.
Right. Right,
Thanks for the history.
yeah. Any thoughts or reflections?
I've chaired PC 1 or 2 years, done the vice thing. This is obviously a much easier board to, I think, chair harder with, there's at times where we'd have 12. We'd have 9 and then 3. So I have experience with it. Because I'm familiar with the land use code because I've been on the planning commission for 6 or 7 years. So I've seen it all kind of come to fruition. I've always been interested in what you guys see from this side, which is why I was, when I got asked to potentially, put my name in for it, it's like that'd be a great idea. So with that, I don't necessarily need vice chair if you're I guess my question to you would be, do you have any interest in continuing the leadership of this very small board? Do you want to take a step back?
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed either way.
Okay.
Every meeting we have is educational and
Great.
provoking, so.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like we're all pretty,
it's mostly variance requests and appeals.
Right.
And there may be a few more appeals than there had been in the past,
Mhm.
since there's more limited use and limited with notice,
Mhm.
which are administratively approved or denied. So those wouldn't go through the PC and BOCC.
sounds good to me.
You're comfortable going forward with that?
I would be okay with that, but I'd probably be more comfortable if you stayed vice chair just for the first year of the term.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
if we're okay with Mike being chair.
Well, you
I-
guys, I
we have
can
to-
step out of the room.
Secret ballot here.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that at all, just to get your feet in it and
Great.
get settled, that's fine.
Yep.
So, okay, do you want to
Adjust the
restate
motion.
your motion?
Yes, can I start the motion from scratch?
You sure can.
I would make a motion that Mike Quamley be nominated for chair. And I don't want to say Blair. Candace Conway would be vice chair.
Perfect. Okay, there's been a motion for Mike Twombly to be chair and Candace Conway as vice chair. Can I get a second, please?
I would second that.
Okay, Jacob seconded that. We'll put it to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, right? Okay, hearing none. It's been confirmed. Motion has passed. Mike is now the chair and I am the vice chair. Okay,
Schedule.
the 2026 meeting schedule, I did go over that. I don't believe I saw any conflicts.
One thought that I had about that comment is, so our planning commission hearings are on the second and, am I right, second and fourth Wednesday of every month?
Yep.
And then the Board of Adjustment is on the fourth Thursday of every month. So like we had a planning commission hearing last night and then we have this one this night. I don't know if it matters to you or if it matters to staff, if there could we have a conversation about whether or not we want to change that at all? Or, just
What would
that
be-
To not
Just
schedule
on
two in
weeks.
1 week.
on weeks that we have both a PC and a BOA hearing, they're one after another, makes for a pretty long week.
Mhm.
All staff is on 40-hour work week, so do you all have any preference? Would you like to express any thoughts on that?
I'm okay with continuing with how it is, only because we have it set as a schedule and we won't have to mess with any
Okay,
moving of dates and whatever, but I'm good with whatever we
It
do.
is somewhat beneficial to have it just boom, boom, like the fourth week of the
To
month.
me,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd
yeah.
rather just get it
we
done
got it
and
stuck
over
in our
with.
head now, so.
Yeah.
But it's always, it doesn't hurt once in a while, just rip off the Band-Aid and start
Right.
the next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you guys get to
Great.
flex? Do you guys get to flex hours at all for these meetings or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let flex whenever they want or need, and then we have some concession of comp time too, if we go over in a given week.
I mean, it does stink having 2 meetings in a row, but honestly, I'd rather have 2 meetings in 1 week than
Yeah,
3 weeks of meetings.
yeah, okay, just brought it up for
Okay.
consideration.
Whatever you.
That
guys
makes sense,
think.
yeah.
Yep.
We're good?
Do we need to formally accept this schedule?
The schedule, yeah. So regarding the 2026 meeting schedule, can I get a motion to approve it as it's set?
I make a motion that we approve the 2026 meeting schedule as presented.
Second,
Okay, we have a first and a second, a motion and a second, sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. No, none opposed, so the 2026 meeting schedule has been approved. All right, now we're going to, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like great.
okay. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to board comments, any requests and referrals.
do we have a hearing next month?
I think we will.
It's on the schedule
Yeah.
kind of for now.
Yeah, you saw the whiteboard out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tentative, and it may not be this month, it may be next.
Okay.
And
I mean, March.
March, pushed to April. is what
Yeah.
you're saying?
it may be, we may have an appeal and kind of where I'm, really sketchy about like when it will fall is due to the fact that once a determination is made, any opponents or even the applicant, in the case like I were to deny something, the applicant can also appeal that decision, right? So any appeal has to be made within 15 days of the determination.
Hmm.
And then within 30 days, as the land use code says, the Board of Adjustment is to hear the appeal.
Hmm.
Well, that doesn't work out very well if you look at a calendar, if somebody.
You're
they
gonna
take a-
advertise for 2 weeks.
Yes,
prior,
because we need to
so-
have notice also of those appeal hearings. And so the timing just doesn't work out. If the appeal comes at the very end of 15 days, and then I've got to do 2 weeks' notice in advance of the hearing. it all depends on the timing of all those sequence of events. Oftentimes, we can't do it within the 30 days, you know, and I have to ask. I had to do this with the last hearing, ask the appellant, you know, can we just go to the next regular hearing date? But had the appellant said, no, I want it within that 30 days,
Mhm.
I would probably have to request of all of you, can we make a special hearing date
Got it.
within that 30-day
Yeah.
timeline? So,
And that's happened on occasion in
Oh,
the
has it?
past, yeah.
okay. So that may happen as well with this
Mhm.
situation. It's a place of assembly, limited use permit, request. I'm just about done drafting what looks to, is gonna be an approval with conditions. And, we'll be reviewing it, and I probably will issue it next Monday or Tuesday. And, with the opposition from neighbors, there's been a lot of, you know, public comments. I anticipate that there may be an appeal. We've had several core requests on it. So that's on your radar.
Okay,
Therefore, it'd be good to discuss the last one because it'll be similar. Well, in some ways.
They're not calling
But
you.
in format.
In format is all, you know,
Okay.
The process.
a different dynamic, but where it's not the, you know, we had made a determination in the last hearing that somebody was noted, you know, unlawful non-conforming, and they were appealing that determination. In this case, it would be neighbors appealing probably the decision. And it may not happen. They may like the decision after they read it. But that's a possibility.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't know, is your part in the agenda for comments, requests and referrals? I mean, if you want, I can move on to like some comments, some notes I have as a sort of debrief from the last hearing,
sure,
if that would be
Yeah.
sure.
discussed. Everett was, you know, suggested afterward, hey, we should do a debrief, you know, and I said, well, scratch up some questions, and he's been a part of, you know, other things where they've done debriefs, and posed a few questions, and we just kind of, you know, all chimed in our responses, and I found it useful, and so I'll just use that as kind of my format for going through. I ended up writing that night in my bed on my phone a bunch of observations from that hearing, because I think I tried to really listen to the appeal, you know, and the landowner and their situation and their perception of how this all came about and so forth. And I just think that there's a lot to learn from that, you know. I encouraged other people in the county to even listen to that hearing, you know, and listen to what this property owner was saying about the land use code and saying about, you know, I think there was a lot of misperceptions and misinformation and misunderstandings, but I think that they originate from some rhetoric and some, you know, some things that are in the land use code. We have a very permissive land use code, and it gives a lot of people a lot of opportunity to do wrong things on their property without knowing it. And that was part of what was going on there, I think, too. But that's a little aside, but I wrote up a little thing about that. And I feel like there's some need to change language in our land use code, like we call it permits, and really what we offer is, and I wish we could frame it this way to the public, we offer a review service. 90% or more of what we do is just reviewing and making sure you're compliant with like the state water law and the state, you know, the state highway permit access and the county engineering, you know, road access, and you know that we're mitigating impacts to neighbors, and that you're not infringing on an easement that's recorded on your property. You know, it's really a service of review to people, and it's not perceived that way. And that's really a shame. You know, it could be really helpful to people to have that service. And it would have been to that applicant last time. But we also allow people to self-assess whether or not they need a permit, because a lot of things are allowed uses. And so a lot of times people determine, well, it's an allowed use, but I'm thinking I want to do on my property, and so that they don't come in for anything. And then that carries with it sometimes a sense that, oh, well, I'm exempt from everything else too, you know, because I don't need a land use permit, but that doesn't exempt you from, you know, other state permits and so forth. So these are just some kind of observations. I got a lot I could say about that, but I'm not going to say all that right now. But those are some general thoughts. You know, there's a whole lot of talk about agritourism, and there's no definition for agritourism. And it's mostly because agritourism can be a lot of things. And then there's also some terms that I always hear, you know, used: agritourism, commercial. You know, commercial, people think the assessors have a definition of what is a commercial property for tax assessment purposes, you know. Landowners think of, you know, things that they do as not commercial that are revenue generating. So to me, that's fundamentally what commercial means, you know. So anyway, those are just some kind of language things, some culture things. But I would say I believe, you know, the board made a correct determination. It was, to me, it was like pretty hard to not make that determination. So I thought that went well in that regard. It was not easy to make that determination in the context, you know, and to get there. Some things I didn't think went well is that it's not well that the applicant and the audience all left disgruntled with contempt for the county and planning. That's not a good outcome. I don't think that's what we want. That's probably the nature of these sorts of things, but you know, that's just an observation of something I feel like didn't go so well. Secondly, I think the motion and the findings could use improvement, and I feel like I could help with that a lot, because it's hard in the context with all that tension and all these allegations and information flying about, to have clarity about how to, you know, make a motion and base it on findings, you know, and get the language clear about that. If you don't have it like pre-drafted a little bit in all different scenarios, you know, because the outcomes were you could deny or affirm or modify, you know, the determination, right? And so all three of those could be somewhat drafted out a little bit in template form, you know, so that you have really concise language at the time when you have to make that motion. And then to also remember to substantiate it on findings, you know, so that it's really clear how that determination was made, and that it's made in a way that's really solid, and that we can then translate into, you know, the recorded resolution. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, and just to reflect on your modification, I think it would be very difficult to modify without rewriting the land use code and the state statutes.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I understand that some people in the public, you know, maybe think of modification as a conditional approval. At least it could be ambiguous or interpreted that way. And so it would be very difficult, I think, to.
Yeah, it depends on the
modify.
case. Like in this case, it was really, I was making the determination that it was unlawful, non-conforming. So either it was or it wasn't. There really isn't modification to be made to that. It's just like, it was either that or it wasn't.
Right.
In other cases, though, there may be modifications that could be made to, say, for instance, if there was a decision to, you know, approve a land use development and there were conditions to that approval, you know, the conditions could be modified, you know,
Sure.
or vice versa, you know, with a denial, you know, the denial could be reversed, you know, and made an approval and conditions could be, anyway. But I thought, you know, having some kind of template language, you know, just could help with that. Or at least even just a blank thing that says, okay, motion, you know, and blank, and then finding, you know, so that we state those in an orderly way.
That would be very helpful just to have, you
Mhm.
know, for a third of a page or a quarter of a page. These are, do we glean all the other information? Option A, B, and possibly C.
Yeah.
And
We often make recommendations, like when in PC hearings, you know, where we're doing that. But we have to be careful that, you know, especially in an appeal situation, that we're not like, you know, telling the board what to decide, you know, we're
Yeah.
not doing that. You need to make your decision, but there's still a way to craft, you know,
Yeah.
the language.
I'm just thinking it's blank template,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that
A blank template.
we
yeah.
don't start a motion and all of a sudden we're
It's out.
in
there.
another
Yeah.
county somewhere, because we've drifted off and kind of left the reservation. And that even happens with me when I get chatting sometimes. So if I think I've got it written down and organized and I'm looking for the three things that we need that are on page 7, and then it also references it on page 3.
Yeah,
If I don't highlight it and go back to make sure that I'm covering, this is last week's, but that's not,
a lot of times though, like all these things are written, what's being considered is written at the head of the, you know,
your paragraph.
That's right.
State,
Yeah.
or the staff report or something, you know, for your consideration. And so it's that consideration language, it pretty much needs to go into your motion, because you're just like motioning off that consideration. So that's the kind of basic language, you know, framework it can kind of give you a little bit to frame that up. I don't know what you think about that, Jacob.
I would say, since you got on board, what helped at the PC was you started referencing the land use code, because you're saying we need to substantiate these motions. I think you're right, in an appeal situation, you shouldn't be suggesting to us, but I think if you do help us with those references, say, hey, we think in this appeal, chapters this and sections this are pertinent. I don't know if you put that in your staff report or what, so that as we prepare for our meetings, we can maybe tee up some of that stuff.
Mhm.
You know, it's difficult to substantiate when you're in a live setting and you're going through all this stuff, and then it's like, okay, now I have to think of a motion and I have to tie it back to the land use code. It's pretty difficult.
Mhm.
But if, for the homework's sake, if you give us top 4 or 5 chapters so that we can go and say, okay, let's like
Yeah.
queue these up in the computer or print some stuff out.
And even if I give you the motion and then finding, and then like right there, like land use code reference.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It makes you.
You're not
think,
writing
oh,
a motion. for
I
it.
didn't make a
You're-
finding based on land use. code
Yeah.
reference, Yeah.
Looking back and forth between all the paperwork to find the PLN dash XYZ, whatever, and re-referencing that would be advantageous for any motion.
So Jacob, just to make it clear, you
Mhm.
like it in the staff report when we're like chapter whatever in the land use code states.
You did it for the PC when you were like kind of detailing it out. But again, different from the PC was when you were like suggesting to us, it's like you probably shouldn't be doing that.
Right,
Yes, we're kind of the governing body or whatever.
but probably
Judicial.
for appeal stuff, the breakdown of the land use code would be
Yeah,
helpful.
I think so.
So maybe that's up top, maybe after you talk about what we're hearing and then be like, here are the,
Yeah.
where we're referencing. I mean, that's on us to know.
Yeah,
land
it
use code,
is,
but it's,
it is, but like I can set it up for you just enough, even all 3 possible motions that you could have, I could kind of give you the architecture for like it, so that you're like ready to like, when it comes that time, you could be filling that out as you're like listening and thinking
Mhm.
about what to
Sure.
say.
It gives us,
totally.
So it was very hard to be like, okay, what was the
Yeah,
which one?
yeah. And where was it what was it referencing within the land use code for the motion and decision? Yeah, that would be very,
Another thought too is I wondered. Recess, maybe, have a little powwow or something. Cause like, it's hard when the whole thing is
Yeah.
and said and done and everybody's sitting there. What are you gonna
What are you
do? And you're trying to have a conversation up here in
Deliberation.
front of everybody.
In
It's like,
front of
yeah,
yeah.
entire right.
Structure for you guys to have moments. Okay, right now we're gonna deliberate amongst ourselves, prepare motions,
Totally.
and you just call that time out.
We've done that in PC.
Yeah, because sometimes it helps you break the action, so you can focus on, you're not taking questions. You said, okay, let's take let's stop now for deliberation amongst ourselves to create possible motions. And
Is-
then just stop everything.
is that a recess then from?
No, it wouldn't be
the
a
actual
recess. You'd be
meeting?
just-
It
I
was
would
just
be-
deliberation up here,
But that's the whole point, is
Okay.
you can call yourself a break to gather your thoughts.
I
understood.
wish you could go to. It's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Optics of that are bad, but I do like that
Yeah.
part. We've had that in
Yeah,
PC
hard
where
to-
it's like, oh, we're gonna stop public comment and then it just like keeps coming or we keep asking questions of public. But if we have that like hard, now
Yeah,
we're gonna focus up here, probably easier with the three of us rather than.
Yeah, when people from the
Maybe
public.
not.
Right.
Chime in, 'cause they hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
and they, I object, you didn't hear wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we prepare motions. You guys, separate from your deliberations with yourself.
Mhm.
You're literally pulling this aside. This isn't for you guys to deliberate back and forth at this point. If you're considering motions, this is where you're gathering your motion, put it together. So is everyone prepared to continue? Because now you've sketched out and organized your thoughts.
Yeah,
Because
each
public
individually, you
speaking
mean?
on the fly is difficult,
That's very
whereas you can then take that hard break and go, okay, I am prepared, how do you feel? Are you prepared? You need some more time? And they say, okay, we need some more time. But you don't have, it's not cross conversations, it's
Right.
for you to now to deliberate your thoughts,
Yeah,
I like that.
like that
to be
too.
able to pull it together. 'Cause public speaking while thinking, while motioning,
mhm,
that's bear.
it's tough, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
at our last meeting, we basically closed the door.
Yeah.
Went into deliberation. And a member of our board at least twice engaged back with the audience.
That's tough.
And it wasn't necessarily even the applicant,
Yeah,
it was the audience. And, there's gotta be a way to go rein it back into that civility and decorum
Mhm.
when you're handling a meeting.
agreed.
That'd be good as chair, just double, triple check, like, just make sure we're gonna close this. If you have any final
Yeah.
questions, cause that used to grind my gears too,
Yeah.
PC, cause it's like.
But, some of that,
Yeah,
that little stuff, there was probably at least twice in this last contended meeting,
Hmm.
if you will, for lack of a better word, that the applicant alluded to something as stupid, if you will, that it was the planning department's fault that because Paonia entered into an IGA with Delta County
And CDOT,
and CDOT,
I remember
that that all the property owners weren't notified. So that person brought it up. There is no notification for something like that. It's not on everybody's deed magically.
Hmm.
The only thing that would initiate the fact that your property now sets in an IGA area
Hmm.
is when you come to planning and you want to do something with that piece of property.
To Sean's point.
They just look at the map and say, oh, well, this is the property and it fits within that IGA. And then to have somebody jump on board with them and
Mhm.
yeah,
everything was wrong. Everything about it was just wrong.
Yeah.
But they didn't, they don't necessarily have to know that.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we were educated enough to at least throw up a red flag and
On
not not join a bandwagon that's going off on a tangent that's completely wrong.
On that point too, I mean, when allegations are made that are questionable, I mean, I think, you know, you could note them and keep a little list of them, or you could address us as staff to address that question, put us on the spot, you know, to address that. We may or may not have an answer to the question at the time, but it at least gives us the opportunity to sort of defend ourselves in a little bit. It's like, there are a lot of things
Yeah.
said that were incorrect, and we didn't have a chance to really retort, you know?
And for us three that sit up here, it's not the time to
Yep.
confront the applicant or the public
Right.
and say, well, you're wrong because
Right.
of this or that. There's a right way to do it.
Yeah,
And that's to shift responsibility back to the planning department, I think,
I
'cause
think-
that's where it's gotta come from.
I think so
And that's
too.
part of what I think we need to do, so we're not having 2 and 3 different conversations up here as a board.
Yep, and
You know, if we have a question, by all means, don't hesitate to, you know, make that point and
Well, I think
ask so we get the answer, but we're
Yeah.
not being accusatory.
probably at the end of the time that the applicant is speaking, right, would be the best time to say, hey, there were a couple of things that were brought up. Could we?
I can give you, unfortunately, I lived a lot of time in court.
Yeah.
So-
Look into it.
This is, what we're talking about is something that judicial systems have set up where that never happens, and there's a reason for that. When you say this is the constituent time, when it's done, unless the judge determines that they are willing to reopen a cross, it is done. And you don't go back and forth. Where I think it gets difficult is when you start going back and forth. And then you lose track. And the way they do it is when an attorney is to present their opening, closing arguments, the opening statement of the attorney is completely unabridged, unchallenged, uninterrupted. It's just the way it is. Public comment. Both attorneys get to do that, just like you say, hey, we're gonna be here to hear, please do your decorum and, you know, do your thing, and then when you start, they present their case in point, which is unargued. And then, or in this case, the planning presents their case in point. And once it's done, and you then ask them any questions, you just keep that order where when the staff presents, you have that, okay, do we have questions for staff? Not at this time, because there'll be a chance to readdress staff after hearing public comment. And then you just kind of have to keep that bifurcation in play. Because what always gets everyone confused and where it always gets lost is someone in the audience will say something and then we address it. And then it changes the whole direction of the conversation. And it stops a lot of things mid-path. And it takes away that sequencing, which makes it hard. If you can't have that good sequencing, it's very easy to end up in different directions because it's this rapid fire.
So the last hearing, staff presented. You asked questions. Then the appellant came up and presented, and you asked questions. You could also then, after, because they said a lot of things about us, you know, and about things that we did wrong or supposedly, right? After you asked them questions, you could say, you could direct us.
Do you have a rebuttal
Yeah.
or would you like to comment?
Redirect,
Comment
yeah.
on X,
And reflect
Y,
on what has
Z,
been presented.
That was said about that.
And you said, and that's how it's done because it's got in judicial court, it's cross. Would you like to recross, re-examine? Do you want to rebuke or a rebuttal to this new section that has come up?
It honestly didn't occur to me in the time, because I get flustered in the moment too. I do. I mean, I just get like, there's a lot of
That would have
tension
been
in the room
a
here
quick-
going on, you know?
Do that.
But
Yeah.
I in reflection, I thought, oh man, it would have been great if they could have just asked us, because like we could have put the rest, like 2 or 3 of this repeated things,
Yeah.
Yeah,
hearing from everybody. It was like, it
100%.
was all off.
And there's one other thing that takes place. When it is not relevant and not justified and out of the scope, they stop this. There's a scope issue here. Get to your point, that's not being discussed, and they will actually stop when we're talking about things that are outside our power. That is not being heard today. You know, those kind of things are to also help when there is something going on, the judge will stop an attorney going, what's your relevance? Or usually the other term will say, I object. And then the judge has to say, saying, yeah, I see relevance is not here, or wrap it up,
Mhm.
you know.
For the most part, I do have to say, Candace, you did a very
Yeah.
good job
It
of
was-
keeping
it was-
it to
yeah.
the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not like, hey, we're bashing on you.
No.
but-
When you're involved in a meeting room that's
Yeah.
packed and it's contentious, it's difficult because the applicant or whomever from the public will be up here speaking, and then someone chirps from the background, boos, whatever, nays, claps, cheers, whatever. So, it was quite
It's a
the
wild
juggle, yeah.
But
But
And a lot of that stuff is gonna take place, and hey, can we please keep quorum, or we can't
Mhm.
hear, or whatever.
And I tried to stay on top of that, but I do think that setting that precedent before, public commentary, which I did, but having
Yeah.
to constantly remind them
Gonna
it's still going to
fit
happen.
You can interject between every,
Yeah.
public, audience member comes up and say, let me just remind you,
Yeah.
said it
When the next
again.
person speaks.
And two, if every, public comment keeps saying some of the same incorrect stuff,
Mhm.
that's a good time to bring us in and be like, hey,
Well,
this thing keeps coming.
you still
up.
have to let, because here's the other difference, so this is different than judicial in the fact that when they have their 3 minutes, it's their 3 minutes.
Mhm.
They can say anything that they want.
Yeah,
And all you can do is you just have to let it play out, but then say, okay, it sounds repetitive, did you have something different? But even then, that's the thing, is you really can't stop that steamroller.
what do you think could, we had like 20 people or something lined up to make public comments. We kept getting the same kind of repeated things, a couple of them that were, like the whole process of the, complaint.
Yeah.
You follow up, right? That kept coming up, right? Would it be appropriate to pause after 2 or 3 of those
Does
allegations?
anyone have, if it's about that, let's consider
Or
that discussed,
Could,
unless
the
it's
board
new.
direct a question to the staff to just get some clarification about
The
that?
problem is then you get to the back and forth on that system I was talking about.
All right.
Mhm.
There's a time, you
So
basically,
complete all the.
You
the
have to complete
public
it.
audience.
there should be notes being taken
Okay,
about, because as we're sitting here, and they say, hey, does staff have something that we should have been taking
Yeah,
notes?
you should have tallied the 13 people said the complaint.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And because I could have simply just said very clearly, and it would have been ended, I don't need a written complaint. Period,
I thought you do need room. Let's get into this.
Yeah,
And it's just one of those things.
yeah.
we get calls, walk-ins.
Yeah.
What it says in the code is that if there's no written complaint, we don't have to do, you follow up, yeah. That gives us the ability to be like, have discretion about which ones we follow up on in some regard. Is that the right way? to do
Yeah,
it?
so basically it's written in a vague way to have discretion. Basically, it says anonymous calls can be taken, but it doesn't mean we have to investigate them. It gives also, me as an officer, if I find it coming across my desk in my daily duty, since I don't proactively do things, if it comes across my desk, I can start my own case. So with the new language that we did, because again, that's the misconception. Prior to that, it was complaint only.
Okay. It did
And
change.
that is what we had to
The
change.
problem with the multiple versions of the PC is like, yeah, I remember the first
Yeah.
one did have a specific,
And we had to polish that in the 24,
I see.
where we made it clear that we should have discretion is what the main purpose was. Because that was the idea, is that we don't want to advertise we're proactive, but also if I see something, I need to be able to act on that.
Hmm.
And so the idea was to make it so that we have the discretion. We don't have to investigate an anonymous complaint. We may. I can get a phone call because it came to me and open a complaint. The key was we wanted to get away from a complaint only, written formal complaint only system,
Right.
because that never works.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but that's a question after all the public comments that can be like, you can tally up all the things that you like need to query the staff about again.
I think it's important to, as a board, to keep our personal being out of it.
Mhm.
And that, because that just creates a dialogue with the public that can be ongoing for eons. And we're not here to sit and drink coffee with everyone. We're here to try and
Well,
be
also,
efficient,
no,
and get,
the complaint is
decisions
not
done.
the part that you're reviewing.
yeah,
It's not about the complaint.
right,
It's about what is the land use code?
Hmm.
Complaint, no complaint, none of that is in the two prongs that you already hear. The
The,
complaint was completely irrelevant.
the consideration that was there, I mean, honestly, during the thing, I'm like, you know, trying to keep my mind on like, what is the decision that, you know, in play here, not, you know, because I am trying to actively listen though, too, and learn and understand things that people
Yeah.
are saying.
Because we can easily be misled if we start chasing down paths, because again, we gotta remember that scope, because that's how we get derailed. Me being wanting to stand up and defend myself isn't really gonna be advantageous to what we're trying to accomplish.
correct,
Because we really need to keep ourselves on point and have that in our mind. We have two things that we are here to determine. Everything else is white noise. And every
Mhm.
time because it is hard to sit here and not want to defend yourself. But having done it in court forever, oh, that officer and the dramatic, and you have to understand that these things have to play out.
yeah,
And if you try to chase down that road and worry about self-defense,
yeah.
it's implied in your jurisdictional duty.
Yep,
Mhm.
and again, backing that statement up, I
Yeah.
think it's very important as a board to redirect to make sure personal attacks and personal matters, either be it to one of us or staff, that they're redirected back on topic at
But then
that
you can also
point.
say that is not the scope of what we're here to decide today.
Correct,
We're not here to decide if the complaint is how you wanted to see it done or whatever. We're here to decide, was the land use code followed? Did the director make a decision outside his authority? You know, you keep those areas there and it helps, because it is, I'm just as much bad as anyone else. I'd love to jump up and cross all these people and give me 5 minutes and let me go at it. But that helps further derail our process.
So I guess some just takeaways, maybe some improvements in future hearings would be to prepare these kind of motion and finding templates, you know, without giving like, here's what to say, you know, but like, here's how to frame what to say.
Yeah.
And then maybe I was gonna see if the attorneys could help us with like a little one pager for public hearing techniques, you know, that we could have available. And then I also, I'd like to prepare draft resolutions. I do this at Board of County Commissioner hearings, you know. Obviously they can go different ways, but I can draft those resolutions and have them kind of ready for whatever the outcome is. And if it doesn't need any great edits, you know, I can make those really quickly and we can get that all done and wrapped up, and so that the chair can sign the resolution at the end. And if not, then we'll just have to plan to have it done the next day or two, you know, stop by and get it done. Those are some of the things that, you know, I thought. And then DOLA has some training too that I thought maybe could share with board members, and, you know, for your own edification and, you know, education and training.
that would definitely be advantageous. It's always good to learn.
It's good for me to learn all this stuff. I mean, Brittany scolds me all the time after these things. Like he's always poking me like, you hear what they're saying? Yes, I hear what they're saying. Like, am I supposed to do something? What are you poking me for? Cause I'm just in it, you know, in the drama at the
Sure.
moment, so.
I wouldn't say you're in the drama, you're just like taking it all in.
Yeah.
like-
Yeah.
Sensory overload.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And then you
I'm not a
don't,
quick
I think that's-
thinker like that.
Yeah.
you're not like you're listening, but you're not listening.
It's not a quick thinker in situations like that. Yeah, anything
Did you-
that you guys
Yeah.
thought about?
Something else I wanted to hit on is what we did at that last meeting. The first motion that was made, all we heard was crickets. And then I seconded it, thinking that we have to be unanimous in order for that, for the decision to be made. So I think I was incorrect in doing that, but the motion was made, I seconded it, we voted, and it went away.
Be,
And I thought
is
that
that
was
because
it.
we had to
We
revise?
did not, well, you and I
Yeah.
voted against the motion.
Right,
when it came time to vote.
Which you could just not second and it dies.
And it dies there, but it did.
Hmm.
So what I probably should have done is just let the motion die. But we
It
had
depends
two
on if you
attorneys
wanna like,
here.
if you wanna talk about it, it's good to cause I saw that you voted against it. It's good to second it so that you can talk about it. And maybe, I think your hope was, let's air it out. Let me see your
Yeah.
point. I'll still vote against it, but it sounded like it just kept.
But then legal counsel said, well, it's, the floor is open. You can entertain another motion.
that's right.
Damn. I didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
And that's when we made the
Yeah.
motion and
That's right.
First appeal, right? It was the first appeal.
Mhm.
And it was highly,
So-
highly visited. It wasn't an easy one.
Sounds like we're all kind of on the same page, you know, learn from that mistake. We've had very similar, I mean, we voted on the land use code and had 100 people show up too, and
Mhm.
we debrief from those meetings of like, where the heck did we mess up? And it's like usually right up top, right? Like, oh, we didn't set that precedent, or we let one person do this thing and then 40 other people did the thing that we didn't like. So
Right,
I think it's on us to, yeah, kind of get those parameters, always expressing to public, hey, here's how we're gonna run it. And then for us three to be on the same page, at least in that regard of how we're gonna respond and interact. Cause yeah, as soon as one of us goes off the rails, then the public's like, well, they don't even know what they're doing, so.
Yeah.
Right.
And for this body in particular, it's like, we're making pretty important decisions, so we
Yeah.
kind of, but it sounds like we are on the same
And
page.
as long as we are a 3-member body here, our decision is still final. They haven't fixed that in the land use code, right?
That's right.
So we're not elected, but our decision is supposed to be final.
Right.
which, you know, I don't really like that.
kind of not
myself.
elected.
Yeah,
So Mike's referring to the part of the land use code that says that appeals can be made to the Board of County Commissioners about the BOA decisions, but that's been, the attorneys have seen that it's against state statute.
Right.
There's precedent to prove that. They've written a memo about that. And that's on the list of revisions for the upcoming revisions to land use code.
Is to make it follow state.
To take that out,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you don't appeal BOA decisions to the OCC, you
Mhm.
do that to the district court.
Right,
Okay,
that's the next step.
All right, well, that was all I had, you know, and so. I learned a lot from that last hearing.
oh, yeah,
and none of these are gonna be the same
You know,
no,
that come before us. but-
Well, the only thing that's gonna be the same is the level of contention.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
that's where it goes back, if you have that good, solid set, if this, then it's this, then it's that,
I think this board
you guys have
Yeah.
got it.
has a pretty good idea of
Yeah.
what we need to get done and accomplish.
I do
Yeah.
too. I do,
be efficient, be on task.
I do too.
I don't think we're gonna have an issue. so.
I could prove you wrong.
I was gonna say.
Don't think that.
Look, you got to tell me something.
You already have a track history, so unfortunately you can't play the wild card.
Yeah,
Alright,
All right.
good job.
with that being
It's-
said,
Any other comments?
I'm done.
Okay, I think I'm done too. Department reports. Are there any? Other than, I guess we kind of segued into that, but,
I got one when she stops the report.
okay, fair enough. So no department reports. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Okay.
hold on, I have to write this down for Kelsey.